foreign and domestic and writers believe that the current government, Afghan government, will collapse with the coming to power of the Taliban. How will you assess the future of the current government of Afghanistan?
3 points. Point number 1, the Afghan government will not collapse. The reason is that as long as the US or NATO forces are present in Kabul, the government will not collapse. And the United States will not withdraw. Remember and mark my words. Despite President Joe Biden announced that the US will withdraw from Afghanistan by 31st of August, but I tell you that the United States will not withdraw this year from Afghanistan. So when the United States does not withdraw, why the government will collapse? That's one. Reason number 2, despite that some regional countries support the Taliban, equip the Taliban, fund the Taliban, but no country of the region want the Taliban to take over. Reason number 3, that the Taliban does not have that military tools, means to take over Afghanistan. Only the Afghan Air Force are enough to tackle the Taliban, 1. Second, as soon as the Taliban reach to the gates of Kabul or to the big cities, only B-52 of the United States is enough to overturn the Taliban. How the Taliban will be able to resist against the B-52 of the United States and the Air Force of the Afghan government? So now some people might ask, okay, how they can take over the districts one after another? 3 techniques the Taliban used to take over the districts. Technique number 1 was that the blueprint and the plot and the plan designed by the ISIS. In many districts of Afghanistan, the Taliban themselves, undercover, went to the checkposts and talked to the police, to the battalions, and to the Afghan army commanders under the name of the tribal elders. But they were not tribal elders, they were the Taliban. And they told them that you are surrounded and siege by the Taliban. Thousands and thousands of Taliban are around you, and they will kill you. And the Afghan Defense Ministry will not be able to support you, neither through air nor through down. So therefore, it's good for you to just surrender to the Taliban, and we guarantee that you will not be harmed. Number 2, the Taliban surrounded these checkposts, and they got all the support of the Afghan air support to these checkposts and the battalion, through ground and through air. And these soldiers fought with the Taliban for 2 or 3 days, and then they ran out of the items and they had to surrender. So therefore, that happened. And the third was that the Afghan Defense Ministry itself wanted those battalions to retreat because the ministry could not support them in those remote areas. Therefore, they asked them to retreat. So that was a situation that a number of districts fall into the Taliban. But there are also like tens of districts that the Afghan government took over again. In conclusion, in this part, the Afghan government will not collapse. And the reason is that presence of international forces in Afghanistan. I have written an article about the Turkey involvement in Afghanistan, that Turkey has 500 troops in Afghanistan, and the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the President of Turkey, said that we will send more troops to Afghanistan in order to secure the airport and the embassies. Number two, why the United States will not withdraw? Because the US government says that we will not close our embassy in Kabul. Okay, when you have an American ambassador in Kabul, you have American diplomats sitting in Kabul, who do you trust to take security protocol of your embassy? Of course, you need to rely on your own security forces. Excuse me. In that case, the US forces need to stay at least up to 1,000, at least around 1,000, in order to provide security for its embassy, the airport, and the embassies of 29 other member states of NATO. So once they do that, then the United States remain in Afghanistan. And the United States, when it remains, there is a guarantee that the Kabul government will not collapse. However, the fight will continue in the provinces, in the districts. Districts and provinces will be more destabilized than Kabul. But a good news is, there are two good news. Good news number one is that Kabul today is much more safer than the last 15 years. Except last year that according to the agreement between the Taliban and the United States, there was reduction of violence. Other than that, this is the season of fighting. In every season in the last 15 years, in the summer, the level of heat was up and the fighting was in upper curve. So this season will come down back. But Kabul is much safer now than in the past. Remember 2019, remember 2018, 2017, 2016, that there were bomb blasts, truck bombs, suicide attacks, complex attacks in Kabul. That's reduced now in Kabul. We do understand that there is target killing, and that is unfortunate. But again, that target killing is targeted killing. Whoever the Taliban want to target, unfortunately, the pilot, the army officers, the commando officers, special forces officers, that they want to target. But in the past, if they would target a military force or vehicles and convoys, unfortunately, we used to lose a number of civilians. The taxi drivers, the bicycle riders, the cart, and the sellers, the street sellers, and all those kind of people. So the security situation in Kabul is much, much better today than 15 years back. That's one good news. Good news number two is that soon or later, the peace talks will begin. Soon or later, mark my words, the peace talks will begin. The other reason that why the chow was gone up was that in the past 2 years, the United States was really bona fide, generously entered and continued peace talks. But both the Afghan government brought up their demands and the Taliban also brought up their demands. And they some way, they counter-attacked the United States in the peace talks. Now the United States said, okay, we are going up. Now, what do you want to do? You want to fight? Go ahead, do fight. But after a few months, both the Taliban and the Afghan government will both be weakened, and then the United States will intervene, Qatar will intervene, Pakistan will intervene, Russia will intervene, because the chaos and upheaval in Afghanistan is in the interest of no one.